Hello, everyone. Welcome to Astro Lunatic's Guide to the Universe. I am Susan, aka Astro Lunatic, and I am your guide for this week's astrology as we traverse the heavens, looking at the stars and the planets and the asteroids. You guys know the drill. Today is Saturday, December 30th. And we are at the last drags of 2023. Come Monday, it will be a new year and a new day. And I think it's going to start off with a bang. If you ask me, considering the astrology, looks like uh, full steam ahead. And definitely, I think we will find out soon that we are living in a whole new world. But with that said, let me start off with where we are at today. I'm recording this on Saturday. I normally do my show on Sunday. I am pre-recording and I am going to be a good girl and get this up today onto my YouTube. And I think I'll also be adding it to Spotify. So if you go to Spotify and search for Astro Lunatic, you can follow the show over there too. One thing I like about Spotify is I can add songs, and my taste in music tends to be very eclectic. One thing is, if you know me, you know I have a passion for cover tunes, like wild, obscure cover tunes, like, I don't know, metal versions of disco songs. So, yeah, go over there. I think I'm gonna keep my intro song for this week secret so that you'll be tempted and tantalized to go over there and check it out for yourself. But anyway, you can follow me over there. You can also follow me, obviously, on YouTube, where I usually am, and on Rumble. I have my Rumble channel. On social media, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And in the description box of this video, you will find a link to my Gilded channel, which is a chat thing like Twitch. I also have a Substack newsletter, which I haven't updated, but that's part of my plan for 2024. I've got big plans for 2024. 2023, I made some headway, and in true Capricorn fashion, my progress is very slow, but very steady. So when I get there, I get there. And my friends know that I've had a lot of things planned and I've been working on them and I talk about them from time to time, but you haven't really seen it yet. Like my let's see. Well, I will be doing interviews. I'll tell you that. I already have one lined up for February. And that will be with the lovely and very British Katie Gallanti. Uh, you can find her on Facebook, and I think on Instagram, she's Planetary Shifters. She does multidimensional healing work, and um, she also has a PhD in psychology, or maybe it is psychiatry. So I have mad respect for her for actually finishing the degree and getting a doctorate. So she understands psychology from an academic perspective, but she also works with spirit and soul. And so I love her work. I've been following it for years. In fact, I was going to school at the time that she was finishing her dissertation. So we had gotten into some conversations way, way back. I mean, we're talking 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. So I'm going to have an interesting chat with her in February. And also, what you should stay tuned for is my upcoming chart readings on celebrities and other public figures like, I don't know, politicians, serial killers, celebrities and serial killers. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. And what else is going on that I can let you guys know? I guess that's it. I mean, I've been seeing for months that, well, some of my number synchronicities tipped me off to the end of this month as being very pivotal. Um, and then looking at the astrology aspects and having Mercury go direct and Jupiter go direct right at the end of the month. And what else? Just certain other aspects that I've been looking at. It really feels like we're in for an interesting year for next year. And I think also, yes, I will work on um, putting out a video in January that will go over the major aspects for 2024 and what we should expect. So, I think that about covers it for the um, things I wanted to give you a heads up on. And so we are in the last 2 days of 2023. Yippee. Say goodbye to the 7 year. 7 in numerology tends to be more spiritual, and I've noticed that the odd numbers tend to maybe put us off balance a little bit. There's a lot of testing. I look at the 5 as being like really super chaotic. And but on a mundane physical level, maybe externally. And then the 7 tends to be more of the spiritual test. And I don't know, I've always liked the number 7. Even when I was a kid, 7 and 11 were my numbers. I mean, I even love the number 7 so much. I had a pet rabbit. I named it 7. Oh, what a weird kid I was. But anyway, the 8 year tends to be more material focused, and 8 in numerology, like a life path 8, is focused on gaining material stability. So I really think that money and finance and resources and how to increase our wealth and assets are going to be a huge focus. And we start the year off with Jupiter in Taurus going direct, Taurus being the sign of raw materials and ruled by Venus. It really does have to do with wealth and um, material comfort and creature comforts and material trappings. But hey, I mean, we all need we need resources to live on this planet. And so I think that'll be part of our big focus and challenge. But Jupiter going forward right at the end of 2023, going into 2024, puts our focus there like immediately, especially with the sun being in Capricorn. Capricorn is all about ambition and goals and, you know, rising to the top, climbing the mountain. That's the goat. and against all odds and hanging off the cliff. That's one of my favorite pictures of all times is these goats hanging on these cliffs like they're perfectly vertical. And the goats are hanging on literally tooth and nail onto the side of this cliff. And that right there is Capricorn. So now you know how I'm living. Oh. It never really gets easier. It doesn't. It's just you learn how to manage it. And that is a very Capricorn word right there. Management. Time management, resource management. Take it from a Capricorn. All right, so today, the 30th, today is a 4 day in the numerology. And our moon today is in Leo. Warm, generous Leo, loving the center of attraction. So the aspects we're having today, specifically on this Saturn day, are not focused on the sun, which is in Capricorn. So that's good. We have a trine between the moon and Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde going station on Monday, January 1st. It is barely moving. So at this point in time, I think I should share my screen. Wouldn't you guys like that? I've been remembering to do it. There we go. That's better. All right. So here we go. The sun in Leo making a trine aspect, fire to fire. This is great. Good for connection, feeling positive. Leo is a positive sign. Sagittarius is a positive sign. It's very uplifting. And the fire is good. The fire is good for us. So this is very positive. The moon is making a trine to the North Node, also in fire in Aries. Focus on the individual, and the moon being our emotional state and the collective mood is fun, creative, really wanting to express and you know, be generous, be creative, be warm, and we like to bask in the warmth of the sun. The moon is making a sextile to Libra, South Node. So that's a positive aspect to have when we are in the South Node. We want to release, and we also, because the South Node is about the past, we can bring things up like our good experiences, good relationships, positive things that we've learned from the past and bring people back in from the past. It's not all about loss and releasing, um, although it can be. But all in all, not a bad energy. The moon today on Saturday, the 30th, squares Uranus. So, a need to kind of break out of the monotony and do something different. Uranus always feels to me like a jolt of electricity, of inspiration that can shift us out of a rut that we've been in. So we may be getting news or, ideas or inspiration or um, a higher perspective, somehow connecting with things that are going to move us forward into the future, bringing the good stuff from the past and getting us out of a rut. Leo is a fixed sign, so is Taurus. Taurus being the bull and Leo being the lion, you know, the bull and the lion don't really move unless they really want to, and they like their fixity. They like sameness. They like predictability. Sometimes it's difficult for, oh, well, especially Tauruses to make a change and roll with the new stuff. Sometimes they really have to be acted upon from the outside, and that won't be comfortable. But if they learn to accept and roll with the changes, things are easier for them. They should look at it as being exciting. But fixed signs like the stability, so it's easy to get into a rut. I would say that this is very inspiring for Leos, for Tauruses, probably because they really feel like being in a rut. Um, the Jupiter retrograde in Taurus and Uranus retrograde in Taurus has them on hold. So their expansion and their new stuff is sort of delayed, but that will come in little by little when we get into 2024. It'll be an exciting year for, I think, all the fixed signs, but emotionally, we're feeling a little bit Leo today. We definitely want some attention, validation, feedback, and positivity. And we'll be attracted to people that make us feel that way. Now, um, because the moon is making a trine with aspect to Mercury and uh, Mars, sorry, both in Sagittarius, there is something that we feel like could be fueling us and inspiring us to act, and very positive, uplifting kind of an energy. And it sort of brings the focus back to the self-esteem, creativity, you know, uh, walking in our truth and coming back to the core realization. I would say that our ultimate stability and resourcefulness lies in our own self-confidence, our self-worth, and what we know on a core level to be our truth and what we are here to do for ourselves first, and then contribute to the collective. So we have Venus now that has moved into Sagittarius. That happened yesterday. And that was a relief because relationships could be a little bit more light and positive, and Sagittarius is more ambitious and not ambitious. It is ambitious, but it is more exploratory and adventurous. That's the word I was looking for. Um, this happens to be my Venus placement right here. I just had my Venus return, and I can tell you that the last few degrees of Venus in Scorpio were a little dark, and not really feeling like very social. Since Sag is very social, and it's very, I could be very bubbly and optimistic and up for anything, you know. Um, and I did not feel that way with Venus in Scorpio. It was really more of like a very like underworld Persephone, dark night of the soul. Not as dark as it's been, but um, Venus is our uh the attraction principle. It is our relationships, it is our finances, it's beauty, it's our artistic sensibilities and know, it's dark in Venus. I mean, in Scorpio. But it really likes to investigate. And so I did a lot of that. So I was gathering material for what I'm going to put out into the world. That's Venus and Sag. Sag is broadcasting and teaching and learning religion, philosophy, gaining a higher perspective on things and figuring out how the world works. So I am a lifelong learner with Venus and Sag and learning through relationships, learning about relationships and love. Venus is love. What makes us feel loved? So, um, relationships, I think, are getting a bit of a boost. However, there's always that but, right? Let's go to December 31st, Sunday, New Year's Eve. And although as an astrologer, I do see the Aries season and the spring equinox as being the true start of the year collectively because there's so much focus on it. Uh, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day are very potent energies. Um, because of the energy that we put into it as a collective. So, starting off tomorrow, we have early, we have the moon in late degrees of Leo, again, finishing that trine to Mars and Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury is retrograde, it's going to go direct on the 1st or by the 1st, could be overnight, depending on where you are, but it is stationary. It's not moving really. And it will definitely bring some kind of summation, a realization of truth and whatever the internal processing has been, our own Mercury retrograde journey, because this is the degree where Mercury went into its shadow. And I mean, that was like, what, like 4 or 5 weeks ago? I won't pull up the date right now, but with Mars here, and Mars, as I've been talking about, is out of bounds. So the action, aggression, assertive, masculine principle has been very, very active. I consider out of bounds to be just what we would see that's out of the norm. So everything that Mars represents, um, even explosions, fires, look in the news, you'll find these stories that tells you what's going on, you know, with Mars here. That's how Mars out of bounds acts. It's also been square to Neptune, which has to do with the sea. Okay, we saw a couple of ships. It's fuel, gas, liquid fuel, and gas fuel. I'm going to caution people, especially um, today, the 30th into the 31st, through January 2nd, because we are still having the aspects to Neptune and Mars and Mercury retrograde. Weird things happen during Mercury retrogrades. Okay. The moon in Leo early on the 31st is going to make a trine to right here, Mercury and Mars, which are square to Neptune. Be very cautious. Check the fluids in your car. Um, Especially when the moon gets into Virgo here and opposes Neptune. I expect things like fluid leaks, oil leaks, and that extends to the home. So really be careful, be aware, but it can be some mechanical breakdowns. I mean, that is sort of a Mercury retrograde thing. I would expect that the issues could come from maybe overheating, you know, if you have a leak in your coolant, that kind of thing. But people can emotionally overheat too. And because of the square to Neptune, they're really not seeing things clearly. That's another thing that's going on. And I've been talking about this ad nauseum, but it's been throughout the whole Mercury retrograde. It's been a lot of religion and politics and government and crazy stuff like that. So it's just a time where if somebody's just reacting, like very reactive and overreacting, just know that it's not about what you said, it's what they heard, and whatever they heard is triggering like their own issues. So when things cool down, maybe you could patch things up. But anyway, on the 31st, so that's a 5 day. Fives kind of bring a little bit of chaoticness and change. So be aware of that. Now, when the moon goes, it starts out pretty good, right? Or positive, or I don't know. There's a lot of information and action happening with the moon when it's in Leo, making a trine here to Mercury and Mars, but it's sort of fueling our our ego and our self-righteousness maybe, and wanting to defend ourselves and our beliefs. Not a bad thing, not really. When the moon goes into Virgo, and that'll be earlier in the morning, um, on the East Coast and the West Coast both, but the display I have is set for sunrise on the East Coast, New York, New York. And the moon will square Venus. So the tone setting with this aspect for Sunday, the moon in Virgo, kind of nitpicky and critical, and looking at all the details and tallying up the receipts. Squaring to Venus, well, I wouldn't think that moon square Venus is necessarily a difficult aspect in the way that Jupiter squares are still pretty good, but maybe the moon in Virgo doesn't quite feel good enough. Maybe there could be a lot of criticism, self-criticism, judgment, even towards other people, but maybe looking at how things are lacking in the relationship department. And that includes friendships, business associations, and also romantic love relationships too. But there is something lacking. We just need to look and see what it is and not blame it on the other person because that's a very moon in Virgo. Like, it's not a bad aspect moon square to Venus, but maybe from Virgo, it can be. So be aware that we may be projecting our values onto other people and feeling like they come up short. But also in the financial sense, which I feel like this is mostly financial, um, we're feeling a lack because Moon is opposite to Saturn. Saturn feels a lack. Saturn is restriction, not enough. Um, so in the personal sense, the moon in Virgo can be self-critical and feeling like, a lack of self-esteem, feeling like we um, haven't done enough or we haven't gotten as far as we want to go. Take that into consideration too, because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn and the sun is in Capricorn. So I've been kind of looking at this a little bit myself, and not to make it about me at all, but these aspects are affecting my chart. So, from my perspective and someone who's actually going through it, I can say, in a Capricorn's sense of disappointment is where we're looking at not necessarily how far we've come and what we have achieved. We're looking at what we haven't achieved and what we don't have and what's lacking. And, our sense of feeling not good enough is, um, I've learned as a Capricorn that it really doesn't do any good. It doesn't do me any good to even express when I'm feeling this type of way, because people will look at me and say, "But you're so talented. You're so smart. You, you have everything that you need to succeed and this and that, but you don't know what goes on the inside of people." And Capricorn will absolutely self-flagellate. Um, that means punish ourselves, feeling like we're not good enough. But you know what it is? Capricorn holds itself to its own standards. So, um, yeah. And it is kind of unbecoming of a Capricorn to air their dirty laundry and voice their insecurities. And I mean, people have always kind of reacted funny to me when I'm bearing my soul and like talking about the torment that I go through. They either fucking hate me for it and say, "Ugh, you're disgusting," and criticize me and make me feel even worse. So, like, why bother? But Capricorn will do this. And so, with the moon opposite to Saturn and with Venus square to Saturn, it just feels like um a lack of opportunity, feeling a lack of resources. Maybe people are feeling the post-holiday financial crunch. On a financial level, um, this does indicate some difficulty. So let's see what kind of financial news we get this week, because going into the first. Now, remember, this is the station of Mercury to go direct, and we usually see big news and events. It doesn't show on this screen here because Mercury will go direct later on in the day. But Venus is square to Saturn, and that indicates blockage, lack, difficulties, just a financial issue here. And, um, it could be as simple as feeling like, oh, we really have to save money, tighten the belt, not spend, lack of expansion. Yeah. I mean, squares do create tension, friction, but they also cause action. So what is the action here? It's a contraction. The action is contraction. So in a financial sense, that means less money being spent or less money coming in, being more careful. And note to self, we have the moon in Virgo, and the moon will early on make a trine aspect to the sun, which is, I mean, it's a positive aspect, yes, but it's also going to put a focus on, I would say, austerity too, because Virgo is not considered to be a fruitful sign. It's considered to be a barren sign in astrology. When you're looking at like planting and stuff, Virgo is not, I mean, it's right before the harvest. It's when you're getting into the harvest. You're not planting your new crops. It's anyway. But what else do we have going on? So the moon, um, it also is going to overnight make a trine to Jupiter. So because Jupiter goes direct on the 31st, or it could be the 30th, I think it's the 30th into the 31st, and the moon late on the 31st is making a trine aspect to Jupiter. Jupiter's about laws, and Jupiter in Taurus is laws regarding resources, finance. So there are laws that are going to take effect this year and new tax codes. Virgo is about regulations and codes, procedural codes. So Venus being in Sagittarius is a Venus, I mean, Sagittarius is ruled by um, Jupiter, and Jupiter is about the laws. So, and Saturn is about government. Guess what? Do a little research, find out. There are probably things that get passed over this holiday season, laws that or lawsuits filed, appeals or whatever, something having to do um, related to our legal system, as also with Mercury and Mars here, and Mercury being retrograde. There's stuff happening that we're not aware of. Being square to Neptune, that's another thing. So Mars is pushing forward and marching on and pushing through, and we're not necessarily seeing what's going on in terms of Sagittarius, the laws. But we're going to start to hear about it when Venus goes into Sagittarius and squares to Saturn. But it'll bring other things up because it's also going to be judgment in terms of how Saturn acts with karma. Because actually, I think, yeah, asteroid karma is somewhere in the middle of Pisces, and the moon will oppose that. So there will also be stuff coming out about finances, about our leaders' finances. Yeah, pay attention. All right, so a lot of things that we're not seeing that we probably won't see really until Mercury gets back into Capricorn and Mars goes there too. Uh, yes. All right, so is that it for that day? Let's see. Well, the moon will conjunct Lilith, and Lilith is not always a pleasant force to deal with. Lilith in Virgo is definitely bitter and vengeful and dissatisfied and very judgmental, definitely projecting their judgment and dissatisfaction onto other people. Super critical. Uh, So, I mean, overall, the trine to the sun is not bad. Looks good for business, building, building your finances with a plan for the future, and the future will have difficulty factored into it. Let's put it that way. You might want to look at where to put your money. It's a good day for financial planning. I mean, it's a good day to start financial planning. Don't do it yet. I would say when Mercury gets into Capricorn and makes that trine, it'll sextile to Saturn, it'll trine Jupiter. That'll be the time that you will want to do that. And I'm gonna say mid to late January should be good for that. Anyway, moving right along. January, we have on the 2nd, January 2nd, which is, by the way, happy birthday to me. I have a birthday month, just so everyone knows. I don't have a birthday, I have a birth month. So I celebrate all month long. So if you miss my birthday, no worries. Don't fret. I celebrate all month long. Yay, solar return. Okay, so yeah, I get the moon in Virgo. Whoop, whoop. And let's see what else. So the moon, okay, on January 2nd, the moon in Virgo is going to oppose Neptune. So hopefully we get to see all of the details regarding the delusion, which is Neptune in Pisces. Anything having to do with, well, if you have a religion, which I don't, but if you have a religion, maybe you're seeing some things about your religion or your philosophies that you didn't see before, or maybe you're seeing the world in a different way and maybe observing people and their religion and their philosophies, which is what I like to do. This actually looks like a really good day to start my video project. And Mercury will be direct, and we may be spurred on by some sort of, oh, I don't know, inspiration to make things better for ourselves, but for other people too, maybe to bring a different perspective to the world. And it can be through film and cinematography. That's very Piscean. Um, and Virgo is very detailed work. So this is lovely. Um, Sagittarius is also a sign that I look at for filmmaking. So this actually looks kind of good for that sort of thing. I would say take that inspiration and start planning whatever it is that you want to do and wait until the next new moon. But we also have on this day, on the 2nd, so we start off with an opposition. No, I'm sorry. A square to Mercury, maybe looking at the details and the process and the analysis. And with Mercury station now, we get a better understanding. And maybe we're starting to get a solid direction. It's part of a process, though. So this would be a good day for checking your blind spots. Like, I always like to ask, what am I not seeing here? Help me to see things from a true and accurate perspective. And Mercury, when it goes direct, we always get messages. So expect that. And the square to Mercury could be communication coming in, maybe somebody contacting us. And the day kind of ends with a Mercury Mars square. So we may be pushed to make a decision, feel pressured on some level to make a change, or we feel a change is coming. Okay, so that's the 2 day. So Monday being the 1 and Tuesday being the 2. The 1 is me, the 2 is me and you, the 2 sides of the issue. And then we have on the 3rd Wednesday, the 3 day. That's my 369 day. You know, I forgot to mention, which I think is interesting. We end the year on a 5, 12/31, 2023, and then we start the year with a 1. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. It just seems like boom, here we are, 2024, brand new world. And so go back, the 3rd. On the 3rd, we have a moon in Libra. It makes an inconjunct, which is a awkward, difficult aspect to Saturn. Like we want things to be fair and balanced, and we are looking at the self and the other, and we are moon in Libra wanting to connect with other, and there's Saturn in the way. I don't know. I think it could be just a little bit of hesitation, uncertainty. But the moon is making a sextile to Venus. Venus is the ruler of Libra. So as far as the arts, the aesthetics, the wanting to connect with people in a new way, new people or in a new way, and explore um, and travel also. I would say that Mercury has gone direct. Things will start to smooth out with travel. It was kind of rough there the past week. The delays, the cancellations, not a great time for travel at all. And I had warned about that in my previous podcasts. And so we also have a moon in conjunct to Jupiter. Jupiter also has to do with travel, but it is overseas and air travel, foreign um, diplomacy. Now, I feel like this would be maybe highlighting the new laws, the new trade agreements, and um, I think what we see is the NATO countries on one side and the BRICS are on the other. So I would look at Jupiter in Taurus as being the BRICS because like they all about the gold bricks, baby, right? Taurus is physical resources and Jupiter in Taurus, both Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. This is the new money system that is coming in this year. And so I think we'll get an inkling of what the legal ramifications are of that, perhaps, in terms of where things are going and how it affects us personally. Um, I'm trying to think of if there's anything that I have seen specifically. I have, but I'm just catching an inkling of it. Like I don't even so much understand it all, but um oh, I know what it was. I heard something passed by my desk about some states, I think, are not taxing capital capital gains on the exchange of precious metals. That's what I think it was. So these things are interesting because it lets you know that, I mean, on a global level, we are sort of moving. Yes, we are moving towards a digital currency, but we're also moving towards asset-backed securities and gold-backed currencies. So, this is something interesting to watch. All right, so that's the third. That's really the major aspect that I see happening. On the 4th, that's Thursday. It's a 4-day. So just so you know, all of the month of January, the numerology of the date reduced month, day, and year. It's going to reduce to the number of the day. So January 4th is the day. I mean that's the the what do you call it? That's what it reduces to. So 1 plus 4 plus 8 reduces to a 4. So just to make it easier for yourself, if you keep track of the days, which I think you should, um, for the reasons why I've outlined in other previous podcasts, uh, the 3, 6, and 9 days are very important. So yeah, just to make it easy for yourself, it's a 4-day. On the 4th, it's a 4-day. All right. So moon's still in Libra. The moon is going to conjunct the south node, which always can represent needing to let go of something, making a sacrifice, a loss can be difficult, or a reminder of the past. It does bring up the past, the south node, but that's not always a bad thing. You know, you could see where you're leveling up, or reminded how far you've come, or what you've learned, because the moon is making a sextile to Mercury, which is newly direct in Sagittarius, a higher perspective. So, how relationships have shaped your beliefs and, your philosophies, your ideologies, and the moon is also opposing Chiron. So, we are focused emotionally on Libra, balance, partnership, but this will also have to do with legal and law. And we are also seeing the triggering of the previous solar eclipse that happened late October. So if you were paying attention at that time and you know what it's doing in your chart, or you know what you observed late October into November, and wherever Libra appears in your chart, um, whatever that eclipse triggered for you, you can see it coming up now. And this will be a theme from now until the next new moon, which is January 11th, I believe. I think I have it written down here somewhere. Yeah, it's the 11th, which occurs at 20 to 21 degrees of Capricorn, and that squares the nodes. So this is important, guys. Pay attention. Know where this is in your chart. There could have been events late October into November around the eclipse time. So that would have been around the 20 to 21st degree of Libra, which made an inconjunct to Uranus. And when I looked at those eclipses, I said relationship dynamics, uh, money and resources, and politics, law, government, and that would be a big theme. That's what I was seeing. Now, because the eclipse is being triggered with the new moon, you want to pay attention to what's going on right now on the 4th when the moon conjuncts the south node. It sextiles Mercury. It sextiles Mars. So, in a sense, letting go of the past and um, old beliefs and patterns in relationships that we held in regard to maybe money and finances and our stability. Maybe we felt like um, we were better off alone or finances were better off separate. And um, maybe even looking down on people who didn't have resources as far as partnerships go. Or looking at, this is something that I noticed, not just with Christians, but in the new age too, like the manifestation, like law of attraction kind of a thing, where if somebody was struggling, that was like a point of judgment where you look at them and say, "Oh, I wonder why they're manifesting that." Like they deserve it, right? Or, you know, poverty, if you look at like from a Christian perspective, not everybody believes this way, but this is what I observe, so just go with it. Um, that money and resources were a sign of God's blessings. And that if you had lots of money and you were, financially abundant, that, well, God must love you more. And that's not true. It's just not true. It's not true. Um, so, I mean, that's a real judgmental perspective, like looking down on people because they're struggling and judging their worth based on, you know, their financial standing. Give me a break. Um, but I've seen a lot of that. Um, so I don't know. Perhaps there is a value reevaluation in terms of what it means, like how we look at other people, how we judge our relationships, how we think of resources and um, the sharing of resources. And, if people are splitting up, this is definitely working things out, right? Where you're dividing up the resources. So, I mean, that could have come up with a lot of people where they may have decided that they're getting separated or divorced, with the last eclipse, and now comes the time to actually like decide on, who walks away with what. Anyway, just some things. Because this is also legal dealings with Mercury and Sag and Venus and Sag, that's money and, you know, lawsuits and um, divorce settlements too. Also, I'm kind of looking at Juno here in Virgo, which is squaring Mercury and Sag. Mars already squared it. That just felt like a separation, kind of divorce sort of a thing to me. Anyway, so the 4th, um, oh, okay, well, this is an interesting shift on the 4th. We have Mars going into Capricorn. Mars really likes Capricorn, by the way. Um, so this is a shift. So we have, when it comes to relating, um, and masculine and feminine, men and women, when I say masculine and feminine, I'm not just talking about gender, I'm talking about how we love and attract, what we tend to attract, how we attract, whether it's partner or resources. the love principle, what makes us feel love, that's Venus. But in terms of our our drive and wanting to pursue and um, aggression, asserting how we assert ourselves, that's Mars. So, and it's masculine, it's yang. So it's like the inner and the outer. We just had um, Venus go into Sagittarius. I think Venus is fairly happy in Sagittarius. She may be a little foolhardy, but overall, a lot of fun. Take it from one who knows. But Mars in Capricorn is definitely um, in pursuit of achievement, playing the long game, and desiring or pursuing, long-term gains, status, achievement of goals. Um, it's very practical. It's like if it's not going to net me anything in terms, that I can define physically in terms of my goals and my achievement and my status and, that kind of thing, um, then it's not really worth pursuing. And Mars in Capricorn can be kind of ruthless also. I would say that Mars in Capricorn can kind of be that transactional relationship. Uh, yeah, definitely pursuing something that is going to, or someone that is going to reflect where we want to be in life. So with Jupiter now direct in Taurus, okay, we're starting to build the back. That's about building the back. And Mars coming into Capricorn starting on the 4th. I think we'll start to feel that shift. Mars first will make a sextile to Saturn, which is wanting to and being able to clearly define our goals. Saturn in Pisces is a little bit vague. I mean, it's kind of difficult, but it's been in Pisces long enough now, and it is direct. And I would say that it's also looking at um, it's not just about me and you, it's about me, you, and whoever else we bring in, building our team. And it's also about me, you, and the third energy that manifests when two people combine. So Mars sextiling to Saturn, very, very good this week. Mars also by next weekend is trine to Jupiter. So I think we have a potential for actually really seeing some good output for our input. Let's put it that way. So that's the 4th. The moon is square to the sun. This is called the last quarter square. It's a square of action. The opening or the waxing square is more internal. It's crisis of conscience, I think it's called. Um, and it is more internal. It's like, oop, better get going, right? I got something to achieve at the full moon. Well, this is the moon waning, dissipating, and it is the sort of last final check of, okay, am I doing what I need to do? And there will be some sort of maybe action that we want to take or physical manifestation that lets us know if we're not quite where we need to be at our goals. There might be some sort of action we need to take. And that pretty much sums it up for Thursday. Thursday is an important day. Last quarter square, last chance saloon, last chance to take action until we get to the new moon and we start building something new. Mars goes into Capricorn. Very, very nice, very productive. If you put your nose to the grindstone and you come in with integrity, commitment, um, long-term goals, boundaries, healthy boundaries, um, I think we'll see the blessings of Jupiter, blessings of what Jupiter's trying to build in Taurus. That's the way to do it. That's your formula. Get with the right people, get yourself right, and commit and pursue and take action. It's not just about dreaming it up. You got to do something. All right. So on the 4th, yeah. And also that eclipse is being triggered. So it could be that a new long-term relationship could be starting, or a long-term relationship or way of relating can be ending with this last quarter square. So just remember, with the new moon on the 11th, which we're not covering today, but the new moon on the 11th at 2021 Capricorn is going to square the nodes. Like we're moving away from the old way of relating or whatever it is, the past, let's say, as it has to do with government, laws, um, relationships in terms of, ones that were not in balance with the self and the other. It's got to honor both. So we're turning a corner with this new moon, okay? And, you know, it goes to long-term goals, commitment, stability, security in terms of home and family, something that honors both the North Node in Aries, which is the individual and the male, and the South Node, which is in Libra, and you know, the self is Aries and Libra is the other. Self and other has to be balanced. So the 4th is a very important day. So the 5th is Friday. It's a 5-day. The moon is square to Pluto. This is where we could see any patterns of manipulation, control, fears about the future, fears about what happened in the past, stuff coming up with legal, law, government, because of Pluto here. And Pluto in Capricorn is the old structure crumbling. So we're going to see probably some kind of news regarding that. It happens early, and then the moon goes into Scorpio, which gets a little deep, and the moon will immediately sextile Mars. So it is getting in touch on an intuitive level, doing the investigation that we need to do to help us to take the right action, make the right plans for the future with Mars. Also to deal with anger issues because Mars is still out of bounds. Mars will be out of bounds all of January, really till the last week. So it is definitely having us look at our anger, our frustration, and what that is, what causes that. What's the pattern within us? Yes, you can look at what the pattern is with the person you're relating to, but the only person that you can change is you. Everything is self. That's what it means. Everything is self. Everything comes back to yourself. You cannot be projecting things onto other people and think that you don't need to change, right? So factor in, like, where do you factor in? The moon is also going to make a trine to Saturn. This is very good. I feel like we're getting some real good information. We always get dirt, like dirt gets exposed with Scorpio. So I feel like this is probably going to turn Mars the attack onto the government. So I think it's the government attacking itself. Like, what does that mean? Like leaders going after one another and pursuing legal um, means to do so. I think with Mars, as Mars is in the last degrees of Sagittarius, it is conjunct a star called Edaman, 29 degrees of Sagittarius. I unfortunately have this as my midheaven, so I understand what this can imply. But part of the energy of that star in Edaman, and Edaman is in the constellation of Draco, if you didn't know, and that is the dragon. And in ancient times, is said that when a comet passed through this part of the sky, it scattered poison all over the earth. So think about that in metaphorical terms. We're also talking about the last like 5 degrees of Sagittarius. Well, yeah. This is stars that fall in the stinger of the scorpion, so it's associated with poisons. So let us not underestimate the anger and the vitriol and the poison, where the poison is coming from. I also related this to uh the nether regions of the body, which includes the exit and the poop chute, and what type of stuff that goes on. Just saying. With men, just saying. Um, and all that stuff coming right up, you know, in the news, not the mainstream news, but the news if you know where to find it. But there's a lot of intensity with the stars, and Edaman specifically in Draco has to do with a fall from grace, disgraced. So something is going on this week, which I feel like there will be some fall guy because they always have to throw somebody to the wolves, but this person always represents a bigger problem. So here in Sagittarius, it's a religious leader, it's a political figure, it's someone of prominence. They're going down, they're being disgraced. And we'll be talking about it and finding out more information. There could be more people. The Epstein list is going to be dropped. I heard it's on January 4th, but I'm not sure. But Mercury coming through, going direct, is going to hit Edaman also by mid-January, I think. Let me see. It's going to be a crazy time. Expect weird stuff. Mercury's going to square Neptune, so on January 8th, so we don't really know what the truth is, or some of it is, the lies are being revealed and we can come out of deception. I feel like there's going to be a big reveal before the next new moon that helps us to look at things from a more accurate perspective. Um, because when we're being lied to, how can we make a good decision? So, more stuff coming up January 8th, 9th, when Mercury is there, squaring to Neptune, more of all of that stuff that we've been dealing with the retrograde and with Mars there, and then Moon will be there. Dr. Fauci is going to testify. His sun is somewhere around here, 3 or 4 degrees of Capricorn, I believe. And Ixion has been hovering around his sun, the asteroid Ixion. I'm going to have to be talking about that pretty soon. By that time, Neptune will have reached the degree of fixed star Fomalhaut, which is one of the 4 fixed stars that represent the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and the 4 archangels. This one is Archangel Gabriel, Fomalhaut in Pisces at 4 degrees, and Saturn will be there. Nothing happens without Saturn's permission. And Mars on Fauci's sun on Ixion, which is the wheel of Tartarus. Ixion is also Ixion committed the first murder, and he also went after the king's wife. We are going to have to talk about this. So Ixion can represent like taking what's not yours, what you have no right to. Also, you know, obviously going after someone else's spouse. So it does represent cheating. And Ixion, because there's a murder involved, it's considered to be the first murder, I guess, in mythology, whatever. Or is it myth or is it true? I don't know. And his punishment for as they said, taking for granted the hospitality of your host. So, yeah, not honoring those who have helped you, but also part of the theme is being given a second chance. So, knowing when you've been given a second chance and not taking that for granted. And, you know, for him, he's in the myth, he's doomed to be tortured on the wheel of Tartarus for all eternity. So that kind of maybe represents a little bit of and a very Capricorn theme of feeling guilty and feeling like you've been cursed or punished because you were given a second chance and you took it for granted, or you didn't take advantage of it, or you didn't see that opportunity, or someone gave you an opportunity and you just basically like thumbed your nose at them, or you treated that person bad, and now you feel like everything in your life after that has gone to shit. That's a possibility, but we should talk about that now, shouldn't we? That's for the next show. But I wanted to show you where Mercury would be squaring to Neptune. I think that's why I fast forwarded here. But anyway, so yeah, by Friday it looks a little intense with the moon in Scorpio on the 5th, 6th, but we're getting closer to a revelation. So as Mercury gets closer to Neptune, think of this as this is us in pursuit of the truth and trying to gain a higher perspective on things such as divine law, natural law, um, spirituality versus religion, um, truth and justice. And as Mercury approaches the square to Neptune, when it squares Neptune, Mercury will be at galactic center. Galactic center is where the waves are emanating from, and our solar system is now aligned with the galactic plane in such a way that we are getting more emanations from the galactic center than we ever have. So other people are better at explaining that than I am, but just look for somebody who can explain to you the Kali Yuga. Okay, so when we get to like the darkest point, we've been in the darkest point of the Kali Yuga. And then you start to come out of it, and that's where in the Kali Yuga, the dark, sort of like the dark ages, um, we're not getting that light. So humans can easily be deceived. As we get more and more light from energy from the galactic center, that's what causes how they put it. I mean, how people refer to it as our, ascension or our frequency is raising, but we're getting more of that light energy. And in my opinion, things that we haven't dealt with and taken care of and worked out on in mental and emotional level, also karma. Um, it is more difficult anytime we receive more light because it'll bring things up that we need to deal with, whatever's been repressed, um, maybe through no fault of our own. Some things are traumatic. But anyway, so Mercury is the mind, the emotional plane. I mean, sorry, the mental plane, right? On the mental level, we're getting some huge truths. The moon in Scorpio can be revealing sextile to the sun in Capricorn, revealing things about leaders, public figures, people who represent the old guard and the old system, which is Capricorn. Um, and secrets could be coming out. I would look for that. Because they need to, because we need the truth. And this supports it. Now on the 7th, well, the moon is also, sorry, I go back. Yeah, the 5th into the 6th, the moon is also going to oppose Jupiter. Jupiter, legal and law, religion, philosophy. Um, and we're also dealing with the financial system, which is run by the same people who brought you religion and all of our philosophies that go along with that we've had for so ever so long. Um, things coming out about, well, on a mundane level, taxes, money and taxes. Okay, so tax laws went into effect. Maybe the average person doesn't know about it, but like you're gonna know about it now. So so yeah. And then the 7th, which is, hang on, Saturday's the 6th. Yeah. So the 7th is Sunday. So we end our week with a moon in Scorpio. Lots of deep digging, investigation, trying to uncover this right here, Neptune. Neptune is also connected to Pandora's box right now. Pandora, the asteroid Pandora, is conjunct Neptune. So dredging up the deep, the illusion, delusion, lies, projections, all of that. We're looking at the psychology of it all. We're looking at the criminality, the uh, financial stuff. And so whoever is going down with that ship, and Mercury is revealing all of the information, the truth. We're getting to the truth of what's here, hidden here, the lies. But we're also honing our own sort of intuition and psychic skills because it's like, shit, I always knew that. And now, you know, it's coming out as being true. But we're getting to a deeper level of the truth. All right. So we're also looking at personally our own emotional patterns, psychological patterns, Moon in Scorpio, and looking at, I mean, people could be dealing with issues of addiction, drugs, substances. There could be overdoses, poisoning. But poisoning was another thing that came up with these last degrees of Sagittarius. So, I mean, this could be autopsy reports, toxicology stuff, all kinds of things. Who knows what it is? I'm just throwing it out there. Like, I'm giving you, like what could be, what the possible things that could be coming up. Um, anyway, I just know that there's going to be a big focus on public figures and government and laws and the court system. So, anyway, so by Sunday, like going into next week, we're also having the sun trine to Jupiter. I'm sorry, Uranus. So this is a big change. And this is um, dealing with the old structure, system, whatever, and things coming up with the old system that need to be changed that could cause us a little snafu here in terms of what we're trying to build for the future, which with Uranus is probably, digital stuff. There's a lot going on with digital internet. Who has access to what? What access do they have? What information do they have? How much access to information does government have? A lot of you understand all of this already. We know that there's nothing private, but um also by Saturday and Sunday, the sun is squaring to Chiron here, so that could be difficulty with masculine figures, leaders, CEOs, bosses, older people, someone in the public eye, square to Chiron, embarrassment, disgrace. Also, the individual not feeling independent and not feeling like being honored for the individuality and pressure on the individual by the government, Sun in Capricorn here. We could be learning about something with taxes too. Um, yeah. With Mars going into Capricorn, Capricorn does represent government. Mars being, very kind of ruthless, right? So, and Mars is out of bounds. So I really think that we're going to see some sort of ruthless overreach. Here's the declination. Out of bounds means I consider it to be 23 and a half-ish, but I have seen effects before that. So we could even just say 23 and above. And this is southern declination. So it does go back to the past. Um, when we saw what happened with beginning in 2020, you all know what it was. You were there for it. We had a bunch, like a clusterfuck of planets in Capricorn. So that tells you all you need to know right there about what was being done at that time, the overreach, uh, and anytime we see transits through Capricorn, that stuff comes up again because there is an infrastructure that was put in place. Make no mistake. They didn't quite fail at anything. It was how far can we take it and how can we do it better next time? Right? But things are different now. Oh, things are definitely different now. But with Mars making a sextile to Neptune, I'm sorry, Saturn in Pisces, Saturn is boundaries. Pisces doesn't have any, right? So it's like, well, if you don't give me a line, I'm gonna make the line myself, right? But I think there is a testing of boundaries and a testing of the new system and a bit of the continuation, perhaps. Or floating that idea out there because we always get a little heads up, don't we, of what's to come because Mercury is going to go into Capricorn and meet with Mars again. I think that happens at the very end of Capricorn. Hold on. Now I have to see. I love this program because I can totally fast forward. Mercury goes into Capricorn on January 14th. And then it slowly starts to catch up to Mars. Probably has something to do with censorship and information coming out about who's gathering information and what information do they have and what are they going to do with it. That kind of bullshit. So Mercury does speed up. It's slow until it gets out of its shadow, which is January 19th, 20th, January 20th, because that's where Mercury went retrograde at 7 to 8 degrees. Very important. Mercury went retrograde opposed to asteroid Astraea. Astraea has to do with justice. Astraea is connected to the scales of justice in Libra. She's the one who weighed the deeds of men and then presented them to Jupiter. So Astraea is Libra. We had the Libra eclipse. The nodes, south node is now at the degree of the Libra eclipse, and we're going to have the sun square to the eclipse degree and the nodes of fate on January 11th. It's a new moon, a new beginning. There could be an announcement of, I don't know, a new leader. Maybe there's someone declaring their run for the presidency that we don't know about yet. Anyway, we'll talk about that next week. January 11th. Looks like an interesting day. I don't know. Let's go back. Hang on, because you don't have to know what the 9 day is about. Political. It's politics. It's always politics. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap this up here. You know where to find me. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, Astro Lunatic, also on Rumble. And what was the other thing? Oh, I have a Patreon. I don't really have it set up, but go over and follow me because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some really hard-hitting videos analyzing people's charts. And if it's very controversial, I might just put them out on YouTube for a little while and then migrate them over to Patreon. I don't know. I'm a Capricorn. I got to figure out how to monetize and work this shit. You know what I'm saying? It's about the bag. Anyway, I give away a lot for free. So, you know, if you actually have the patience and the tolerance to follow my rabbit trailing, you might learn a lot when it comes to astrology, because I do kind of give away my secrets, though there's a lot I don't say. But anyway, anyway, um, I know for sure that I am going to be quite motivated to do something pretty soon since I have my solar return and that always refreshes me. And on my solar return, I have Mercury direct and Mars both on my midheaven, square to Neptune. They don't see me coming. And you ain't seen nothing yet. And that's me, I guess, sort of channeling the details and the information from Galactic Center. I always thought it would be a good idea to have like a astrology in the news show, and I could call it News from Galactic Center. But then would I be intruding on Joni Patry, who is a wonderful Vedic astrologer, and her thing is galacticcenter.org, but mine is more like a 60s sort of like like news radio past. Anyway, we'll see. That's like projects for the new year and TBA. Okay, you guys, thanks for hanging in there. Hope it wasn't as wordy as it always has been. Probably. It's always TMI. TMI. All right. Happy New Year. Ciao for now.